All right, what we're talking about?
You tell me. There's so much going on the market, always. But
Yeah.
in our previous episode, I guess people would say that we're still wearing the same clothes. Me and Preston, and literally just hop on a call like an hour after. Um, I guess we can talk about JFP because we wanted to talk more about that deal, but we're just like, yo, wonder if Ryan would talk to us about it, and then we see a message in the chat, and boom, here we
Yeah.
are.
I can talk about a fair amount. I can't speak about everything yet, but I can chat about a lot of it for sure.
That's fair. So for a lot of people that may not know what we're talking about, the JFP deal is with Total Office Limited,
Yeah.
which is primarily, I believe, a Trinidadian company, but they're all over the Caribbean currently.
Yeah.
There's even one in Jamaica. No, I'm pretty sure there's one like
Yeah.
Up
yeah,
the
there's
road
one in
from us, I think there's 72 Hope Road.
definitely on Hope Road.
Yeah.
So and the JFP plans to acquire 30% of the business, while it's like a share swap, but it's not just shares being swapped. I saw cash and shares and so on. So JFP would acquire 30% of Total Office, and Total Office would acquire about 30% of JFP. Currently, from what I can see in the market, Total looks like, well, there's a trade that happened with JFP. I don't know if Preston can find it or if I can find it.
Breaking down the trade that happened, what was it, March 15th, or through the three different trades that happened. Because what we saw on the market
Yeah.
is that three trades went through 87 million shares each. And then we were
Mm-hmm.
bringing that back to kind of how JFP's top 10 is set up. Like from based on the top 10 list that we have that ended December last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's JKZ, then
Right.
Eurobian, and then Mr. Richard Sergane. Eurobian is Metri, and then
Right.
JKZ is Steven. So I'm wondering,
Right.
is it the fact that it was split up into the 87 million? Each of them basically sold that percentage of the business to possibly Total Office, and then they might get the rest of the shares. Well, I don't know how they'll necessarily get the rest of the shares, but maybe it's that shares have to be issued, or you know.
Hmm.
So I guess
Um,
time will tell.
I think you got well. What I can speak to the trade. You're spot on with the trade. The trade was by the principals, and there's a bit more to be done in terms of the consideration to the buyer. I can tell you the buyer was Total Office, and after that, the transaction will probably close 90 days. So we had to be pretty, what's the word, creative. The truth is, I don't know why more people don't pick this up, but Total Office is a $1 billion company that does
Huge company.
the business in 16 territories. There was an article, I think, where we had said, where I think that somebody was quoted, it was either myself or Mitri, where TO's revenues, I believe, were reported to be 7 million US.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
So
Mm,
one of the things I think investors would do well to think about is if that is double or perhaps 250% more than JFP, what kind of gain on investment would JFP be getting? You know,
Hmm.
by virtue of this acquisition, and perhaps persons who are saying not to participate in JFP are thinking twice now. Just,
you had to do it. You had to do it.
just, just a thought, eh? Just a
have to. Because look at JFP. JFP is looking like a very hot stock right now with this. Like
Hmm.
Preston was even talking about the business synergies
yeah.
based on the total from what I remember they distribute for, is it Steelcase? I can't remember
Staircase,
the company.
staircase, yeah. Yeah.
Steelcase Inc. And Steelcase Inc. is the largest.
They're a public
Um,
company, Their ticker is, let me find it.
mm,
Staircase, that is. I mean, obviously, we'd
Yeah.
said we're going to list.
Mm.
Steelcase's ticker is SCS. Yeah, they're on the Nasdaq. No, they're on the what's this?
NYSE.
NYSE. Sorry, their market cap is 901 million US.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
Mm.
yeah. So it's a big guys.
No, they're huge, and from what I remember, they're like I remember seeing it somewhere that they're the number one. They're the largest manufacturer of office furniture in the world. Um,
That may be
is it?
true. I don't know that part, but I just know they're high quality. They're
Mm,
the premium end of it. So Theo's clients in Jamaica, a lot of I mean, they obviously are able to come here and do business, and nobody knows.
yeah.
Like they're doing, I think I'm at liberty to disclose, like Bank of Jamaica, Price Waterhouse Coopers. They're doing
Mm,
like Sun in Guyana, tons of other business, and it's a really groundbreaking pan Caribbean opportunity
it
because
is.
I mean, obviously JFP is not short of work, right? But
Yeah.
I think if they're able to help fill some of Teo's orders through, so in a sense, if they have to produce like or provide like a ton of chairs and desks and office floors and whatever, and JFP is able to make one element of that, their 40% or 50% gross margin would be able to do it much more profitably for
Exactly.
for both firms.
Hmm. And they're everywhere in the Caribbean, as you said. They're in
Yeah,
St. Vincent
all
and
of them.
They're in Guyana,
Yeah,
Curacao,
yeah,
everywhere.
everywhere. What
Mm.
I like about it, I think it's fitting I get into this. So obviously you can imagine I sourced that transaction. And I think we've been working on it for about probably 9 months. 9 months. It
Mm.
came to
Like the
us.
birthing of a child. That's crazy. Love
Yeah, 9 months.
that.
So, going up and down, the Caribbean and seeing a bit of what Theo has done, at least by virtue of just their presence and their footprint, was really, really, really inspiring. It was really exciting because what it meant was we've been now seeing the Jamaica Stock Exchange through the junior market being the playground of the whole region. You have an entity that can say, listen, we want to deepen our footprint in Jamaica, and not only just that, we want to list on the local market.
Hmm.
That is a massive vote of confidence. It came around the time I think we had, was it trade, there was some trade visits. I think Trinidad had sent a few persons over, and that was not what led to genesis of it. Just the timing was coincidental, and then right after that as well, you had another contingent from Trinidad coming to view Jamaica Stock Exchange and to exchange ideas with them. And I just found the timing to be really, really coincidental, but pleasantly so, because there was a time where Trinidad and Jamaica, yes, we had our difficulties in the relationship, but the business was going one way. Trinidad coming to Jamaica and buying out Jamaican businesses. Now it's a bit of a two-way relationship where you actually now find more Jamaican businesses are buying into their regional counterparts. We see it with AS Brighton and Sepra,
Yeah.
or Mustang rather. We see it with Guardian Holdings and NCB and so
CBE.
many others. So many
Hmm.
others. This is just, I think, the culmination of what is possible. There are a lot of wonderful businesses in Trinidad, and I think the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market does provide a very, very, very good platform for them to extract more value and equity and capital for expansion purposes. So I think it's groundbreaking. I think it's going to make a lot of money for a lot of people. I think investors will be happy. And we're just looking forward to just carrying this through to completion.
Mm. I love that. There's
Yeah.
some other things Preston and I were speculating at the time when this deal came out, because
Actually, I may answer.
well, I feel like you can't, but sure, if you can, then that would be great.
You never
There
know.
is, yeah, that's true. It's true. One way to find out, right? Um, we were speculating on the rest of the shares because Total bought. Um, so the shares that traded was a certain amount, and I think it added up to about 23%
Mm-hmm.
and the target is about 30% from what we understand.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at the rest of the shares, the rest of the shares that need to be bought, and we're just like, where is that? There's that gonna come from? And fine, Total's gonna buy that piece and so on, but even JFP too. How is JFP going to fund to buying Total shares? Because it says it's cash and shares swap and so on. Yes, so I know cash has to be a part of it. JFP has a cert. I can't remember how much cash JFP has on their books, but when I looked at it at the time, it didn't seem like they would want to eat up all of that working capital, all of that cash, just to purchase shares in Total.
Mm-hmm.
So we were saying it could possibly be raised, right? They could do some form of raise
Mm-hmm.
and pay for this, whether it's debt, whether it's equity, whether it's a mixture. And I'm not sure if one of the articles actually spoke to it. I read it as the day, like the day the article came out. I remember reading it at the time, and then yeah, but there's so many ways in which this can be done. I don't see JFP doing. They could do an equity raise, yes. I don't necessarily see them doing an APO. Why would they? But there could happen, but it's unlikely in my opinion. But we're looking towards the possibility of a rights issue, um, and of course, when you want shares and there's a cash transfer, you have to seek shareholder approval. So we're looking towards things at like an AGM, right? So, and JFP hasn't had an AGM from they listed from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking towards that AGM whenever that comes out, or whenever that is, to say what I would probably even be there. If I can be there, I would definitely be there because I mean, I'm definitely a shareholder, and we've been speaking about JFP from the start of the year, before we even knew something like this could even happen, was even possible, right? Would
Mm-hmm.
even culminate. So looking for some resolutions in the audited report, looking for that board meeting, that AGM notice, but yeah, I mean, we're wondering how do you think JFP could even
Where's,
fund the acquisition of these shares?
where's the money? Uh, I'll tell you what it's not. I think so. You raised you earlier. You said you answered one question, which was how would Total Office get the rest of the shares. So
Mm,
you have to go rewind the tape and figure out what you had said that is true. Re JFP, I don't foresee an APO or rights issue. I think I
mm,
don't think those are fit for purpose. And something else which I said in the article that the ownership composition would end at 30% for both. I never
mm.
said it would start at 30%, which would
Agreed.
therefore mean that you could find that coming down to 30% being part of the closure. So at the time, so let's see. As I said
Mm.
before, we had to be
Yeah, we actually thought about that too because we were like, what does closure even mean? Because
closure. I mean, it's that,
if
that that part's straightforward. I mean, you'd have seen the Panjam deal the other day,
yeah,
where that was not a cash transaction either,
mm-mm,
but it was an exchange of ownership by virtue of the movement of assets. So
mm-mm,
there are ways to do it and to do it properly, and and that's how we intend to do it. But there won't be any rights issue. There's not going to be an APO. It's just going to
mm-mm,
be a very straightforward closure. But there are just some steps you have to take. Yes, we'll have to. I mean, the companies will have to engage your shareholders. But remember, in the meantime, we're still preparing Total Office for an IPO, right? So,
exactly. We
and
were even speculating with that too because
what's that?
um, that's why I asked, what does closure even look like? Because it you could even have if it the end point is 30%,
Yeah.
could even buy in or in they have a reserve pool in the IPO, and that could go up to 30%. There are so many things we're spinning around, so many
That's,
ideas we're
that's,
tabling.
that's very possible. I think I wouldn't take anything off the table,
Hmm.
but I would imagine the IPO is going to be a is it that would be the finish line.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll be the finish line, and that's going to be this year.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that
But
one of the articles mentioned that timeline that
IPO,
expect no, well, not for the IPO, but the deal. They said there's an Observer article,
yeah,
um, March 22nd. They say that they have metrics saying, well, the article says the deal is expected to close in July.
yeah, fair.
Yeah, so
But that could be. I mean, that's the deal that's been announced.
Yeah.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're, I mean, let's draw on some examples. So we had Dollar List. Dollar was an IPO, but Dollar was also a sale of shares.
Yes.
hmm
So
Hmm. First rock equity.
it's not impossible that you could have that scenario play out as well. But what we know for certain is that everybody will own 30% of each other at the end. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Total Office would be the lead shareholder in JFP. Yes, they would be.
Yeah, that would be.
Don't know if JFP will be lead shareholder in Total Office.
Mm,
It'll also depend on like how the IPO is
Close. It'd be
structured too.
close. It'd be close, but I don't think they would be the.
Mm,
Wait.
mm,
No, no, no. They'll probably end up as the lead. Probably end up as just
mm,
about. Probably,
mm,
yeah.
yeah,
Depending on how the buy.
there's a lot of different things because like depending on same point you were mentioning, like you're going back to like when Dollar listed, you have shareholders, selling shareholders. You don't always have to have a selling, like you can just have newly issued shares
yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, there are
I
lots of
mean,
different ways you can do it.
I can see that. I can see that happening. Some shares being issued. I don't know. I mean, you've had in times past companies have issued shares and not had to get permissions for it. You just get the disclosure.
hmm
Well, we'll see what happens there. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that's subject to whatever approval or
Yeah,
whatever. See
I,
what plays.
I think that's what Thaon was kind of pointing to because the rule book was
Mm.
states that in terms of issuing shares, there are certain exemptions where you don't have to actually get shareholder approval. So he was saying that for if you're going to pay for the newly issued shares in cash, you have to get shareholder approval. But if you use debt or equity, like for example, Tropical Battery had an acquisition and they issued shares, but they didn't need shareholder approval because it wasn't for cash. It was for what
It
was it
was for shares
yeah.
in that
That's the
company.
energy thing that they were playing into.
Yeah,
Yes.
the dam rep. What's the name
Okay.
of the company again? It's a
I
dam
don't
rep
know.
company. Kaya. Yeah,
Oh,
Kaya.
different. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it may not, and I know Proven had an issue as well. That,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
With the that was with Basel Bank.
I think so. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not absolutely necessary, but sometimes they may veer on the side of caution. But
When I chipped out for a second, he said sometimes they may.
or veer on the side of caution.
Oh, just
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
But we'll see. Ultimately, we'll see. But it's gonna be a very, very, very smooth, quick transaction. I think the IPO is gonna have a lot of shares available.
Mhm.
If if should it materialize, which there's no reason it won't,
Hmm.
and the public will be able to benefit or to buy in substantially. I think. I mean, yeah, I was saying Jamaica is weird because you would think an offer is massive, and you know what's the word? The demand isn't there. You think $1 billion, or you're going to struggle to raise it, and then before you know it, you hear the prospectus issued today, and 3 days later, brokers calling you, saying that they have 400 million
Yeah.
from their clients alone. That's one broker. You
Mm.
know what? As I said before, though, TO is a very, very, very well run business,
Hmm.
and it is a very profitable business.
Um,
I love to hear
And
that.
love to
no,
hear that.
I love to hear that.
very
And it's
profitable.
so funny because even as JFP shareholders, we liked JFP before all of this.
Yeah,
Now this is announced, the price is around the same,
Yeah, that's
and
the
I'm just like, what? Well, I don't mind still. I'll keep buying, but I mean, it's just there's so much going on right now, and The price is just the same.
I mean, they asked me to just to give. So if I was on the other end, like trying to figure out what this deal would be like, right? So I worded my quote deliberately because I wanted to give some insight, but obviously I, couldn't say too much. But one of the questions I was asked is what size IPO would it be? And I said, well, close to the limit as of right now. That you draw that, you reverse engineer that you're talking a business that's going to be coming to market anywhere about $2 billion market cap, all being equal, if you're
Yeah.
gonna talk about somewhere close to the limit. So then you start to say, wow, okay, so what's JFP gonna pay for the stake? Something else to bear in mind though, the transaction closes in July. You're not gonna know what JFP would have paid for it until those numbers are reported, which would be, I think, Q3,
Mm,
because March is done. They haven't done anything, so they have nothing to report.
mhm,
Nothing's gonna happen in June, I don't think. Yeah, so probably want to get the specifics until
mm,
July.
Which is Q3, yeah.
Yeah, Q3. Then a Q3. Well, fine. I mean, as I said, Tio, we expect them to go market Q4.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And there should be one or three IPOs for us this year.
mm,
Nice. Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Not including the APO. That's
mm,
4 deals.
Wow.
mm.
So
I
Always
we'll,
know people
working, man.
people have been waiting on the IPOs, because from last year there were certain articles saying that, oh, this was gonna come out, this was gonna come out, like AS Brighton. There was an article hinting that it was supposed to come out from maybe in December or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
we are now into Q2 of the next year. Still haven't heard anything. So
our deals are not in that list that people are speaking about.
yeah, they're gonna IPO, but what does that do? You probably barely get any shares if you apply anyway. So
Facts.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I don't really view the hesitation now by persons as a bad thing, because it may allow for the more
that's
committed investors to get unreasonable amount of shares. Then
look at
again,
Apex. Look at Apex.
what happened with that, by the way? Because I still don't understand why it's
That's
down.
why it traded like that.
Yeah, what happened? Because I
Um,
mean, I know everybody was trying to get in the game because I suppose we had dominated it, but I
uh-huh.
don't
Mm-hmm.
understand why they tried to do a deal like that at the end of December.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
also the
I don't.
$2 price, I think even
There,
deterred people somewhat too.
yeah,
$2.
Yeah, the $2,
yeah.
because I think people just
I
there's
listed
this
it at two
mental thing
dollars.
that people are like, oh, like we understand that, okay, whatever you set the price at, it doesn't really matter. Like there's more the intrinsic value and the PE and those things. But I think there was even some hesitancy with, oh, $2, and then also if you look at it, JMMB, they aren't really, what would you say? They aren't really as market savvy as, for example, the GKs, the Mayberries, and those stuff. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
done an IPO in like a long time too.
Mm-hmm. So the way we
And
thought it
then
was
even the reserve
structured,
pool too.
yeah,
I
like
saw how, like, for example, the reserve, we got into the reserve pool, Thaon and I, because like you're a doctor, you could get into the reserve pool, and based on like what I've seen with the reserve pool was kind of like you could get a decent amount for some people. So I
Yeah.
see that, like, sometimes depending on like how deals are structured. Like when I look back at another IPO that didn't really do as well as the typical thing, like a one-on-one, you got a decent size reserve pool, and it's like you're giving it to people that aren't necessarily as, maybe they're like a bit newer to investing, and so they're just gonna like maybe sell almost immediately. So that, like, I remember the one-on-one, I
the
think you got up to like
flippers.
about 500,000, depending. I think if you're like a teacher or maybe it's a Sagitt corporate, like you could get 500,000 in. So imagine you just giving someone $500,000, and then you see it at a dollar, I don't know, a dollar 20, a dollar 30. Like a lot of those people might just sell, because once they see the money, they're like, yo, let me
Hmm.
sell.
Yeah, that's the problem when you have a very large reserve pool. Like you invite that kind of selling, because I would, if it's me and the price gone to $2 and I have $1 million in, I'm definitely selling.
And I don't think it's just that too. It's if you split it up into a lot of different people, you're
Hmm.
gonna cause a lot of selling pressure. You have these individual orders with small,
Yeah.
like with a decent amount. So like you'll have, like, because if you think about it, if someone has 500,000 units and then they have their sell order there, and then another person sees it at $2 or 2.10, they're like, oh wait, I want to sell my units. If they then have to undercut that person, so
Mm.
that I think causes a lot of selling pressure and stuff. So I guess that's
And
like a bit more with the
even when you structure it, you kind of want to. Well, personally, if I was running a brokerage house and I had a decent stake in a company that I'm listing, I would want to benefit from the price moving up after IPO. So I'd set the deal in a certain way where, I ensure that there's some demand after listing. I don't think JMMB did that. There was barely any demand
did
after.
they sell?
uh, After, I don't know if they sold. Actually, would have to double check that. But you kind of want to structure it where people would want to buy the stock after, right? And there was none of that, and so the price was like at $1.70 for a long time. However, we saw a lot of buying recently. Was it last week, Preston?
I don't know.
You
I
see
haven't
like a
watched it.
$1 million buy order in the queue, and people buy it up straight up to $2. And it's like $1 million, just a million units, I should
What is
say,
it
not a
at now?
million
I see it
dollars.
at two
It's at
dollars.
$2.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it was just a little hard for them coming on the heels of what's that company name? Elite. I
Mm.
just never saw the value add, and I thought, there's some industries I feel like you have to be the first mover for,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
otherwise you're in the shadow of everybody else. And that was my takeaway from it. But I just somehow thought it was limited to like JMMB clients or something. I guess not, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, the timing just struck me as a little strange, like December 28th.
Mm. Well,
Yeah, even that too.
at the end of the day, remember JMMB's goal. I go back to the same point. JMMB doesn't really make money from the market the same way we make money. It's not like
Yeah,
Mayberry who makes it from the stock price appreciating. JMMB, in my view, they are more. We'll get the fees from the deal itself. We don't necessarily need to book the share price gains or whatnot. We don't have a fund that needs to book the share price gains. So the share price may not necessarily matter to us as much. We're just, oh, it's a long term, it's still a good company. I mean, if you look at it, Apex is literally the largest, I think, in that whole industry,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like they
there.
have tons of branches, like they're expanding by more branches. Like
wow,
from a fundamental view, I guess the company is like still a solid company. So
mm,
I don't think they care about things like that, like how you would say, oh wait, but I don't want the share price to go up, or like, because
Mm-hmm.
maybe GK would likely own a lot of shares, and so they wouldn't necessarily want to book a loss on something like that. So
yeah.
yeah, but
You'll be
I don't know.
surprised about
Like you,
that.
bring it back to
Yeah,
the same point
yeah,
about the like with the IPOs. You realize that with Apex,
yeah,
heavy volumes were trading below IPO price. So
yeah,
like the typical person, like say I'm someone, if I put $1 million, well, this isn't typical person, but say someone puts $1 million or $100,000 into an IPO, they're barely gonna get anything. Nowadays, you get 10,000. If it's a junior market company, 10,000. All of
yeah,
the money is just left, and you would usually have to buy on market at 2 times, 50%, whatever, much higher than the actual IPO price.
yeah,
Look at something like Apex. You could have been that person buying up the units when it was dipping after at
yeah,
180 below IPO price, millions of units,
yeah,
and so your percentage gain might not look like that much, but the dollar value and just the amount of units you could move in and out is a big deal. So like that goes back to the whole like IPO strategy, that if you're someone who is smart, this actually is an opportunity.
no
Mm-hmm.
question.
Opportunity. Even now, look at this. It's at IPO price. Like imagine getting RPL shares at IPO price now.
I bought it at $1.20 after, as I told you guys. So
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I thought
RPL, yeah.
that was a giveaway, but
Giveaway.
we bought it. So
Yeah.
I agree with him. No, I agree with him. My whole thing is if you like the company pre-IPO at two, and you like it, and you still like it at $1.70, why not buy it at $1.70?
Mm-hmm. A lower your average price. Yeah.
Absolutely, no question, no question. I think what I'm kind of wondering to see is who is going to do the next IPO, and the potential outcome. You know, my thinking, and this may sound a little bit controversial, I don't think a lot of the brokerage communities really understands investment banking and the whole thing of IPOs. And I feel like some do it or they some execute because it's the thing to do. But
Hmm.
the appreciation for all that a company going public represents, I think, is lost on a lot of the community locally. Without, I mean, there are a few of us who are very aggressive in pushing things forward. There are a lot of people who just view the markets as, I mean, and this is not retail investors, no, I'm talking about practitioners, who they also view the market as a buy and sell thing. You know, they don't view it as a sustainable mechanism. You know, in other words, a lot of people right now, I can tell you, are hesitant to participate, to execute transactions of that nature because they say, oh, the market is soft and this and I'm not throwing words on fast, which I'm just being general now. You know, I'm not. I promise I'm not. A lot of people saying, well, we should delay this deal because it's soft. The market's soft. I know there are people saying we shouldn't do JFP because I'm said don't not participate. And I said, are you crazy? You
Missing out on opportunities,
know what I
man.
mean?
Like, why? Why?
We
So,
shouldn't
what
do.
if the market is soft? If your thing is good, people are gonna see it.
That's
You know?
absolutely true. And I think that commitment to the market. So don't, you know, you hear some people, you know, talk about retail investors and whatever. Some of them same experts, they don't believe in the market. They pay lip service to it, but they don't believe in all the
Yeah.
benefits. You know, and I think that context should be of assistance to your viewers and yourselves and whoever else is interested in the market to know that your own convictions are your convictions. Don't follow nobody because you don't know what that person's bias may be, and they may hold this big title or whatever, but they don't have any due care or regard for the market. I mean, listen, the market's everything to me. So, and stock markets as a whole, that's where I, do what I have to do to sustain myself and clients, more importantly. But not everybody view it that way.
Yeah.
Not everyone has skin in the game.
That's a skin in the game.
Mhm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Not at all.